Star Wars is filled with heroes doing heroic things. Princess Leia stood up to Vader and Tarkin, Han Solo let himself be frozen in carbonite, and Luke blew up the Death Star. But amidst their celebrated heroism, it's easy to forget that doing those things took guts. Vader could have killed Leia, Han's carbonite nap could have been permanent, and Luke could have missed his shot at the Death Star. All that to say, fear is a real part of the galaxy far, far away. And the franchise is filled with some pretty scary things. From an angry wampa to a cluster of black holes, Star Wars has some naturally scary things. However, the most fearful things were villains. Among others, Vader was a mechanical monstrosity, and Sidious was a self-absorbed, lightning-happy maniac. While it would be difficult to compare the relative scariness of those two Star Wars villains, it is possible to compare them from a certain character's point of view. Darth Maul lived during the time of Sidious and Vader, and he had encounters with both of them. So let's look at Sidious and Vader from Darth Maul's perspective and see which one the one-time Sith was more afraid of. In Legends, Darth Maul was born to a human night sister named Cassina. She wanted to keep her baby away from Mother Talzin, and she soon happened upon a traveling Palpatine. He was reluctant to take the infant, but he was convinced because he could feel the baby's potential. So he sent Maul to a secret location on Mustafar where a droid called TD-D9 raised him. It was a cruel upbringing for Maul. He was slowly being trained as an assassin, and any hesitation or mercy were severely punished. That continued until Maul discovered the Force. When TD-D9 reported the development to Darth Sidious, Maul's life only got worse. Sidious became directly involved in his training, hurling rocks at him, lowering him into acid, and applying painful Sith tattoos. At the age of 14, Maul was sent to the Academy on Orsis, where he was trained as an assassin, except he wasn't allowed to use the Force. At 17, Sidious took Maul and abandoned him on Hypori. There, he had to survive while being hunted by countless assassin droids, and it was during that challenge that Maul developed a pure hatred for Sidious. When the Dark Lord returned, Maul tried to kill him. Weakened by his trials, Maul quickly failed, but he had passed Sidious's test. With his hate instilled, he was ready to be trained as a Sith. In Disney's canon, Maul's story was pretty similar, but it was much worse because it made him hate his own mother. In that version, Maul was Mother Talzin's son. Sidious had promised to make her his apprentice, so she was willing to obey his every command. Maul grew up with an inner anger, and eventually Sidious sensed it. When the boy was 14, he commanded Talzin to send her child away. Although reluctant, Talzin agreed. Maul was thrown into a pit, and over the next few months, he was beaten and starved. Through that awful existence, Maul's hatred was honed. He began to hate his mother and the man that had promised her power. Not only that, he discovered how to use the dark side of the Force. Soon, rumors spread that a powerful man was coming to Dathomir. He was looking for a warrior apprentice, so all of the Night Brother boys prepared. Maul wasn't allowed to attend the competition, but he used the Force to break out of his prison. When he arrived at the selection, he found out that Sidious was the man in question. So he found his captor, and in a burst of anger, he killed the man along with his sons. Thrilled, Darth Sidious immediately took the young man as his apprentice. The boy's anger was already primed for training, and it was aimed directly at Sidious and Mother Talzin. Over the years, Maul was raised to be a Sith Lord, and eventually he was ready for his ultimate test. He fought and killed Qui-Gon Jinn during the Phantom Menace, but he underestimated Obi-Wan Kenobi and got himself killed. Well, kind of. He ended up living through the whole experience and returning to prominence during the Clone Wars. However, Darth Sidious wanted nothing to do with him. Count Dooku had taken his place. Yet, Maul didn't give up. He and Savage Opress began wreaking havoc on the galaxy. The problem was that Darth Sidious didn't like that. In Season 5, he showed up on Mandalore, killed Savage, and humiliated Darth Maul, which put an end to his time as a Sith Lord. Maul never officially met Darth Vader, though there are two instances that need to be mentioned. First, there's a story in a Star Wars Legends comic where Darth Vader had to fight a resurrected Maul. It was in 2001 Star Wars Tales No. 9. In that 48-page story, the two Sith Lords dueled to the death while continually taunting each other. In the end, Maul's lightsaber was split in half, but Vader was disarmed. It looked like Maul was going to triumph, but Vader did something unthinkable. Using the Force, he summoned his weapon, and placing the emitter against his own gut, he pressed the activator. Maul, who was coming at Vader from the back, was caught totally off guard. Pierced through his midsection, Maul was finally defeated for good. Vader's hatred for himself had overcome Maul's relentless attacks. There was another time when Maul almost met Vader. It was in Season 3 of Star Wars Rebels. Ahsoka, Ezra, and Kanan went to Malachor, where they found a trapped Maul. Through a lot of conniving, Maul made Ezra activate the planet's Sith temple. But one of his passing comments was pretty important. He told Ezra, "I cannot defeat Vader alone." Although his power was noticeably diminished by that point in his life, Maul was clear. He had no intention of dueling Darth Vader. He knew his place. If anything, he wanted to use the temple's weapons against the Dark Lord, but going toe-to-toe with him was out of the question. So what does all of that mean? In order to understand whether Maul was more afraid of Sidious or Vader, we have to understand what that means for a Sith Lord. Very rarely did any Sith show their fear, but that doesn't mean that they weren't afraid. They just knew how to transform those emotions into power. In The Phantom Menace, Yoda told a young Anakin, "Fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering." From a Jedi point of view, that was correct, but a Sith would exchange the final result. They would say that fear leads to anger, and anger leads to hate, but they would conclude that hate leads to the dark side and all the power that comes with it. In the Book of Sith, Darth Bane even wrote that it is foolish to cover fear behind pride. Fear of death, fear of loss, and fear of chaos are primal motivators. Fear can be your fuel. So the more fearful a Sith was, the more their dark side power could be augmented. In the case of Darth Maul, he never really showed fear. When Sidious showed up to fight him on Mandalore, Maul wasn't afraid and he fought well. His swordsmanship actually rivaled Sidious's skills. He just wasn't strong enough in the Force. Likewise, he would have put up a good fight against Darth Vader had they met in Rebels. So the only way to see whether Maul was more afraid of Sidious or Vader is to see which one he hated more. That's because the more hate he had, the more he was masking his true fear. And once we look at things from that perspective, the answer becomes clear. While Maul didn't like Vader and his power, Maul had nothing personal against the Dark Lord. He was just an obstacle to regaining power and getting revenge. However, Darth Sidious was an entirely different case. Sidious was the one who had ruined Maul's life over and over again. He stole Maul from his mother and made him hate her. He brutally trained Maul. Then, when Maul returned from the veritable dead, Darth Sidious didn't want him back. In fact, Sidious killed Savage Opress and humiliated Maul. So more than anything, Maul hated his master and wanted revenge. As he lay dying, he told Obi-Wan that the Chosen One would avenge us. And the fact that he hated Sidious more than Vader meant that he was more afraid of him as well. But what do you think? Did Darth Maul fear Sidious more than Vader? Or should it be the other way around? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And for more Star Wars content, check out one of the videos on the screen. And I'll see you in the next video.